I'm just taking it all in. I think it's cool. And there's like the person in the number 1 car at the light gets out and he comes back to the number 2 car and he starts punching at the window and like yelling at this guy. And I'm like, kind of like, something's happening out here. This is crazy. My dad's like, hey, you're about to witness your first carjacking. And I was like, what? So we're like chilling there for a second, and then all the light turns green, and my dad just starts pressing the horn in the ambulance, like, let's clear up the intersection here, let's go. And the guy looks back at us, looks back at the car he's kind of yelling at, looks back at us, looks back at the car, pulls the door open, starts hitting this guy, pulls him out onto the street, and just starts just assaulting this guy. Right, just size 12, just stomping this guy in the street. I'm like barely 18. I got high school in the morning, right? I got high school problems,
Responses: engine 5, engine 3, engine 1, ladder 3, ladder 2, rescue 1. We've got smoke showing. Division 1, you're on location, box 23, reporting smoke show on 727.
Job Talks podcast members do not represent the cities and towns they work for in their views and opinions. They are views and opinions that belong to us only. We are not here trying to be the experts or tell people how to do their job. Our goal with this show is simply to facilitate knowledge sharing. Hey, what's up, everybody? Before we get into the episode, I just wanted to remind you about the Spring Thaw happening 2 weeks from today. We have 4 great speakers coming to talk leadership, fireground survival, large-scale incidents, engine company operations. It's going to be an awesome day. So if you've been procrastinating on getting your ticket, now's the time to do it. We'd love to have the tickets in this week so we can place our orders for food. You can find more info on the event or a link to purchase the tickets in our video description on any of our social medias or by scanning the QR code on the screen. Hope to see you guys there. All right, welcome back, guys. This is Season 3, our second episode. Piggybacking on the episode we had with Paul Morrison from Cambridge, today we have another guest, Justin Silva. Justin's here. We're going to go through his whole background, but part of the Plymouth County Tech Rescue team, which is a regional team, and we kind of set these episodes up to have a little bit of a view of working tech rescue on a heavy rescue in a urban environment, and then working tech rescue on what's a district team in a more suburban or rural environment. So welcome, Justin. Thanks for coming on, man. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you guys are doing with the show and for the culture. It kind of makes the fire service in New England feel really big. I don't know. I saw that about a podcast and like the guys who are into podcasts and being able to listen to people that
Right.
Yeah. Like at my job, what kind of got us hooked on the podcast when you had on Chief Nardelli.
Oh yeah.
That spread around.
I think he got a lot of people hooked.
One of my guys, Matt, was like, hey, Chief Nardelli was just on this podcast. I know one of the guys, you got to listen to this podcast. Like, Chief Nardelli was on the podcast?
Yeah.
And then it was like everybody, to talk about 2.5 story wood frames. That's like so synonymous with like Brockton and their training culture. And like, so we were just hooked at that point.
New England in general, 2.5, 3-story wood frame is like bread and butter stuff.
And that lecture, that 2.5 story wood frame lecture, that predates Chief Nardelli. That probably, in a sense, predates even Chief Galligan.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see that history, those lessons being passed down generation, and now with this platform being passed on to people that are like all over New England.
And that's one of the things we talk about here is like, so number one, this podcast and this thing's going on like this all over the country, right? And a lot of great stuff, and you're listening to FDNY stuff, but then you're listening to LAFD and then like OKC and all these places, right? And it's like, oh man, this is awesome, but it doesn't really relate to us as much as it's cool, right? So one of the things that we always talk about trying to do here is like we want to like highlight some like local talent, right? Some of these local guys, all these guys that we know, and then as long as technology is still a thing, we get to preserve all this stuff, right? So it's like, in 5 years, it's like, I'm going to listen to that podcast again because there was some like pearls here. Or, as you advance your career, you're like kind of like, hey, go listen to this because this is timeless in a sense, right?
And it's good too, or like part of the idea we have is like highlighting like not everybody works in a city with 1, 2, 3, 5 heavy rescues. You know what I mean? Like highlighting how it's different when you start getting into smaller, limited staffing departments, or even hopefully we get some people like on volunteer and call departments that come in. And one thing, just real quick, is we say every time, if you are interested in coming on and talking about something, to reach out to us. Justin was actually the first person that was like, hey man, you guys want to talk? And actually reached out to us, and proof of concept, we will make it happen if we can.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate you reaching out.
That was
and
weird.
watching.
It was a big jump. I was like running it by the guys at the station. I was like, if I go do this, is this going to be like you guys it looks like a big ego thing, that I'm like putting myself out there, like how am I supposed to even like remotely follow Chief Nardelli on anything,
Right.
And I was like, is this, do you guys agree? You think I should go do this? And they were like, yeah, dude, you should absolutely do it.
This
like,
is
go ahead, put yourself out there.
At the end of the day, and we talked about this multiple times amongst ourselves, and now I think we're at the point where, like, I'd say it live, I wouldn't care.
Right.
This whole thing's a big risk because you stick yourself out every single time you sit down here and you talk, because you're putting your ideas out there. And listen, at the end of the day, some ideas people are real receptive to, some of them they're not, and some of them it does. It sounds like, oh, this guy maybe he's like he thinks he knows everything or something like that. But the point of this whole thing for us is really, it's about, like, we're all like, in between 5 and 10 years or so, and so it's like, this is just part of our journey, and it's part of like the growth. And I'm sure I'm going to look back in 5 years and I'm going to be like, what was I talking about? I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know anything there, right? Yeah. And it's okay, because it highlights a few things. One, it's okay to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, right?
Yep.
But if you're afraid to make a decision, or if you're afraid to speak up and say things, you're never really going to learn. You're never really going to grow, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so there's like this saying out there, right? It's like win or learn, right? So you don't necessarily lose. You probably just learn, right? Obviously, we try to make those mistakes small so nobody gets killed,
right?
So
that's good.
That we know of.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this long form discussion, this is a good way. It's
yeah,
a good thing.
definitely is. So, all right, guys. So we're gonna get into the technical rescue end of this. Before we do, though, we have a bunch of stuff on here as far as your credentials go, but give us a background of yourself, how you got started. It says that you started when you were 18, or before you were 18. So
I was a kid,
you knew you wanted to do this like right away.
Yeah.
Are you like of a firefighting family, or how's it work for you?
Yeah.
Give us that background.
My dad's currently serving as a fire chief in Plymouth County. Okay. So I'm a second generation fireman, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so that had a big impact on my life. Growing up, like he'd be at the station. I'd like go there, celebrate my birthday party at the firehouse.
Yeah, cool.
You know what I mean?
Awesome.
And like seeing him running out of the house, going to fires and stopping at car accidents and all that stuff. My dad's awesome. Mm-hmm. He's all in for the culture, all about the job and the lifestyle.
Nice.
And watching that growing up as a kid, like you don't realize, because you're just being exposed to it, and you don't realize that it's going to end up probably having a profound impact on your development as a man later on in life. And so that had a big impact. And so we kind of went through all that, and as a kid watching him do that, and then they were going to hold this EMT program in Plimpton where I grew up, and shout out to Donnie Gazzaro. He was the instructor. And so I went through this EMT program. I think I was a junior in high school when I went through the EMT program. So senior year of high school, I ended up working part-time nights and weekends on for my parents' ambulance company, which is like another hilarious story. So I ended up working for the ambulance company like as a senior in high school, while enrolled in a Fire 1 and 2 program. And that's all I wanted to do. Like high school just became an obstacle in the way of my career, ironically enough, right? Like education was actually an obstacle.
Yeah.
I didn't walk at my graduation.
You were working overtime.
I was, no, seriously. Like I had the live burn exercise for my 1 and 2 program. I just told my principal, I was like, just mail me my diploma. I'm all done.
Right.
I love it. So all in.
I
love that.
That's it. Yeah. Awesome. And, it was cool to have my parents have the ambulance company, because it just gave me like a lot of unique insight and experience being a kid. Like, I mean, it's just a kid. I'm like 17 years old, 18 years old, working on an ambulance, you know, like zipping around Brockton and stuff, like causing trouble.
You know,
just mayhem.
That's awesome.
I forget what it was. I think we had to watch some of it like for a class or something, but there was like, they were highlighting how, and this was like a dramatized, I think it was a dramatized thing. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a live show of an ambulance in like Mexico City or something. And these people, they have like their ambulances, right? And then they have like their little, you know, their little son, like literally like hiding in one of the cabinets, like during calls and coming out.
No shit.
Like, dude, like,
That's
just,
awesome.
like, but the whole family is just like in the ambulance, you know, doing stuff.
I imagine it's also like
awesome.
you go to like remote parts of Alaska, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Similar, where like the
definitely.
community is the EMS fire service, you know, like they're all involved in it.
You don't even have to go
you
that
don't have
far.
daycare. You know what I mean?
Like Maine and like upstate New York.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy just because like around here we just like we just don't have the whole like the idea of it really. But when you get out to these towns and stuff, like the volunteers, they all like a lot of them start really young.
Yeah.
You know? And I mean they're doing this stuff when they're like, you know.
My dad was a
It's
volley in
14,
Syracuse
15.
for a while, like in college,
Oh,
and
no
he said it was like that. He's like the volunteer ambulance service. They had like a house, like a residential house, and people would stay there for like days on end and just staff an ambulance.
Is it some of the places do that for? That's how they like you get free rent basically. You live at the firehouse and you run the calls.
The college stuff that's like still out there.
Yeah.
It would have been sweet. That might have convinced me to go to college, maybe.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Right.
I'm with you. So I wasn't. I'm first generation, but I was the same thing. The high school, I knew I was going in the Army, and high school didn't. You know, it started off meaning something to me, and by the end, I was like, just let's go.
It's an
Let's get out
obstacle.
of here.
Yeah,
You know, like
that's it.
yeah. So that's awesome.
So it kicked off fast, like short career, but kind of compressed, you know. So
Yeah.
I don't know. So I did the EMT school thing, and then I think I got my my EMT card. It's kind of a funny story. So I ended up getting my EMT card on like a Wednesday afternoon or something, and I got home, and my dad like pokes his head out of the house. He goes, "Hey, did you pass your exam?" And I was like, yeah, I passed. I got my card. He was like, "Sweet. Well, we got an opening on the evening shift tonight, so you're coming to work right now."
Right.
And I was like right now?
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Who am I working with?" He goes, "You're gonna work with me."
Yeah.
And like, if
back
anyone,
when minimum wage was like $6.75.
Yeah.
First overnight.
Yeah, I'm probably like indentured servant at this point, you know. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go. I got school in the morning though, so like you got to get me back home eventually, right? So like we go and we're just like zipping around the city doing like, you know, transfer calls and stuff like that. It's like low impact work. And we're at because you know Brockton, so we're in the ambulance and we're both sitting up front and we're at North Main and Battle Street. You know where Golden Corner is?
So my dad. So I'm from Brockton.
Oh, nice.
My old man owns a scrapyard in town, and so North Main and Battles is like literally when you go over Mulberry, it turns into Battle Street.
Yep.
So that's like
that's the scrapyard up there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're chilling there and we're at the stoplight. We're like the number 3 car back from the stoplight, and I'm just taking it all in. I think it's cool. And there's like the person in the number 1 car at the light gets out and he comes back to the number 2 car and he starts punching at the window and like yelling at this guy. And I'm like, kind of like, something's happening out here. This is crazy. My dad's like, "Hey, you know, you're about to witness your first carjacking." And I was like, "What?" So we're like chilling there for a second, and then all the light turns green, and my dad just starts pressing the horn in the ambulance, like, "Let's clear up the intersection here. Let's go." And the guy looks back at us, looks back at the car he's kind of yelling at, looks back at us, looks back at the car, pulls the door open, starts hitting this guy, pulls him out onto the street, and just starts just assaulting this right?
melee.
Just size 12, just stomping this guy in the street. I'm like barely 18. I got high school in the morning, right? I got high school problems, you know. So my dad looks at me and goes, "Let's go," and he just jumps out of the ambulance and just runs toward this chaos. And so I jump out of the ambulance. I'm running toward the chaos. Like we're running up there, and the dude runs away. Like the assaulter runs away, and we're left with this guy who's like snoozing. He's unconscious. He's hurt. He's hurt bad. And so here we are. Like, you know, the bar across the street there lets out all the people from Golden Corner out now. So now it's like it's nighttime. There's the crowd forming, and we're out here on the street. We're doing this thing. I'm doing it with my dad, which is I don't know. It's like embarrassing and hilarious all at the same time.
Yeah.
And we're doing this thing. We're taking care of this guy. We transport him and whatever. And I remember like after the call, my dad was like, "So what'd you think of that?" And I was like, is it like this all the time?
Did he make you tech the call?
No, he was like, no, I couldn't even tech the call. I didn't even know where I was. So he's like taking care of this guy. And I'm like, do I take a left? So he's like giving me directions how to get to Good Sam. I don't know where I am. I grew up in Plimpton. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like way out of my comfort zone here. And after the call, he was like, so what'd you think? And I was like, that was pretty crazy. I think I could stick around and maybe do this a little bit more.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh yeah, you've been bit by the bug.
Yeah.
That's it. He's like, you're all in now. Like, we got you. You're not getting out. And it was kind of after that point, like that, like during that call, like, you know, my adrenaline was so high during that call. Like I was like literally shaking, you know, and I, you know, like now looking back on it, being older and like reflecting on it, I was like, yeah, that was probably like that moment where like I had that feeling stepping out of the truck, that confrontation, not confrontation with people, but like confrontation with the unknown.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something that we do all the time.
Right.
That's really every call. And like that, I was like, I want more of that.
Yeah.
And then that just kind of propelled me through my career. And like in the fire service, like I kind of found this tech rescue niche. And I was like, oh, I can get like more exposure to like interesting incidents and more of that confrontation with like these complex, like unknown things. And I was like, it just seemed like a natural progression for me. And, you know, it's dirty and it's cool. And I just wanted more of that. So I just started like crushing training classes through MFA. So, you know, shout out to them for running the tech rescue program. It's super important. So I just took all the classes and applied to get on the county team in like 2000, might have been like January 2010. I think I got on and stayed with them. I've been with them since. And then 2014, got on the FEMA task force. It was like January 2014, got on the FEMA task force, which is awesome.
So what's the, like, what do you, to get on like the FEMA task force? I mean, is that like kind of an easy, natural step progression type of thing? Like a lot of the guys you work with in the county, they all FEMA as well. Like, how's it?
There's only a handful of us,
yeah,
that are up at FEMA too, because it's a big commitment to be up at the task force. So, I mean, I had when I applied to get on there, I had no intention that I was like, I never thought that they'd actually accept my application. Sure. And when I went up there to interview, I was like, oh, I'll get an interview. This is huge. Like, this is as good as it's going to get. Yeah. And it's a big commitment. So I think that's kind of scares a lot of people away from it. Like, because they'll tend to bring on like a lot of people and a lot of people leave. Just the commitment's big. You know what I mean? But it's awesome, man. It's awesome. There's so much good training opportunity up there. The leadership is so good. And every time I go up there, like my cup's just filled. It's just a big dose of humility too, because you get up there and you realize that like you don't really know what you're doing. Yeah, right. Like there's so many people in New England that are so good at this job, and so good at being a rescue specialist. It's just a really humbling experience.
I feel like the more you get into anything in the fire service, and I definitely like going back talking about doing this, the more you get into it and the more you meet people, the more you feel like you have imposter syndrome. Oh, yeah. Because you just you meet people that are so good at what they do. Like like Paul said last week, like they're really smart people in the fire service. And when you start getting into wanting to do bigger things, you run into those people.
Those smart people really start showing up and you just feel like I remember going up there and like when I was we were kind of all sitting in this room, we're in building 14 and they're like, hey, if you applied for rescue, stay in the room. Everybody else get out. It's like 100 people in this like interview process. It's like everybody gets out and there's like 30, 40 guys left in the room for rescue. And I'm looking around the room and everybody's wearing jean jackets with like Manchester Rescue 1 patches and like all this stuff. And I'm like 22 years old. And I'm like, I'm looking around the room and I'm like, fuck. Everyone here has a mustache but me. And I was like, I was like, there's no way I'm getting this job. And I remember like
sign.
I was like, I'm not going to make it, you know, I'm just a kid. So Bob Better and Tom Kenny got up and kind of addressed the group and they were like, hey, if you're in this room right now, like we're offering you the job, but just be known, like this is a huge commitment. This is the NFL. Right. And if you don't want to if you can't make that commitment, you don't want to, that's fine. Like we'll shake your hand and, you know, bid you farewell and good wishes, you know, thanks for coming up. But if you want to stay, this is going to be a really fulfilling thing for you. That's cool. So I chose to stay and it's been a good ride. Nice, man. It's been a lot of fun. So I did that and managed the training for the tech rescue team for a while now. And then Did the ambulance company thing, part-time paramedic for New Bedford. And
so what's that? So as far as like management, it's like management as far as like an administrative type of role, or is it like you're organizing, like
like the drills.
Drills, or are you like a team leader type thing? Like what is the management aspect of that?
So you're pretty much, so we break it down. So like, technical rescue will have its own manager.
Okay.
And that manager is responsible for running all the drills.
Okay.
For, the year, however long he stays, you know what I mean? So you're responsible for planning all those drills.
Okay.
So you go do site survey, and we can get into that like deep, like what the training aspect of it all looks like. Mm-hmm. But you're running the drills for the team. It's up to you.
Cool.
If you don't do it, you're letting the team down for sure.
Yeah, right, right. Okay. So that's cool, man. We can tell just by talking to you anyways that you have like that organizational type mind, which I
man.
I am not cut out for administration of any type of thing.
I can feel my ADD through your focus.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I appreciate it. Yeah. I think I have crippling ADD myself, but I mean, this is like the only thing that can keep me focused on something.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
Service.
That's good.
It's my niche.
I tell people, this is what I've been telling people since I started. I'm like, just like pick the wall and tell me to run through it as hard as I can. That's like my job in this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But no, that's cool. One thing I wanted to go back to really quick, because it's kind of I'm kind of starting to see like some people like pick directions and go and do things that they want to do. We have a few guys that are like starting to like look into like the flight medic thing, and it kind of it's almost like it's like it's not the same path, it's a different path, but it's the same type of like focus, right? And what I'm finding is that, and even for myself too, I'm like, man, where can I really focus so that I can really put your skills to the test? Because as like a smaller town department, right? Like when you show up to if you show up to a high angle rescue, we're not doing it.
Right.
We're getting the area ready for the tech team that's coming in to do it. So yeah, you may get to some of these high acuity calls, but you're not necessarily performing in these high acuity calls. And that's like the bug that bites you when you get to do the thing that you train for, the thing that like everybody thinks that, oh, he's a fireman, this is what he's going to do. And to the layperson, they don't understand that, like, we're not necessarily jumping in this gear and doing it. It's really tech team and things like
specialized.
That. Yeah.
Or showing up and securing the scene, and then like watching somebody else get in the hole or get on the rope. Or
for me, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like I have to be involved.
Right. Yeah, like I want to do that.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Do you feel like getting, like, for people who are interested in this, like getting a foot in the door, obviously, like it's a whole community, right? So you start meeting people. Do doors just start opening a little more as you go? So like you say, you get on the task force, right? And then all of a sudden you have access to more training and things like that. So like, is it like a progressive effect of the more you get into it, the more things become available to you?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you start building relationships, and that's important too. Like networking, because you might have a friend who's involved with tech rescue, and he's on the job up in New Hampshire or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, I'm taking this class. You should come up and take this class. You can just go up there, take a class in New Hampshire or something. So everybody's like bouncing all over New England, just like word of mouth, taking different programs and learning different stuff. And it's good to kind of get outside your local area and go do classes someplace, maybe even far away.
Right.
Because you kind of run that risk of, if you just stick with like the classes that you've always been exposed to, and like no slight against like, programs, like local programs or whatever, but you end up kind of like a little bit of like institutional inbreeding, right? So it's good to go outside, even like far away, and take a class to get different perspectives, because like the West Coast does things different than the East Coast and vice versa. So it makes you a better rounded, technical rescue person if you kind of just understand.
Just puts one more thing in the Rolodex for that one off, and you're good. Like, maybe let's try something different.
Yeah, it's definitely like a niche thing, like Lieutenant Ray McCormick says, like the fire service holds out a flame for each of us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, for some guys it's hazmat, for other guys it's tech rescue, maybe being like really involved with the union, like stuff like that. And just, for the guys on the tech teams, definitely like that was the flame that was held out for them. Yeah. They're super passionate about it.
Yeah.
I like that. That's awesome.
That's a good way of putting it. So real quick, we'll just cover, because you're Plymouth County, right? Last week we dug into more or less how a department specifically does things.
Yeah, we kind of highlighted Cambridge.
Yeah, and how they have like their in-house resources and what they use for other aid and like mutual companies, things like that. But so give us like kind of the lowdown of how like Plymouth County. So we have some demographics and some overview. I'll just read them off real quick for those listening that aren't from around here. But so county in the U.S., state of Massachusetts, it's 34 miles south of Boston, which I guess it like starts there and goes down. As of the 2020 census, it's about 500,000 people, and obviously that fluctuates. 27 cities and towns, and one of the oldest counties in the United States, 1,093 square miles of landmass. And Barry couldn't be here because he had a scheduling conflict today, but he made sure he threw in this fun fact. And Plymouth County is consistently voted the #1 county by pilgrims due to its desirable rocks.
Yeah, they got some good rocks.
Yeah.
One good rock.
One good rock.
Thanks, Barry.
It's awesome.
Dad joke landed.
Brutal. Yeah, it's a big county,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of inland water too. So we've got I don't remember. It's a pretty significant amount of like square miles of like inland water, and plus the coastline goes all the way from the Sagamore Bridge. All the way to Weymouth. You know what I mean? Basically, almost to Boston Harbor.
I did.
Right.
You know,
I'm looking at this map, which we'll throw up, but I didn't realize Hingham and Hull are part of Plymouth County. I thought that was kind of, they're kind of outliers on the map too. So you guys have all of, like you're saying, coastline. You got all the way up into Hull, Hingham.
And Cohasset is technically Norfolk County, but we are the tech rescue team for Cohasset.
Because you guys are otherwise.
Yeah. So like they're like technically Norfolk County, but all their mutual aid and stuff is all Plymouth County.
So how are you guys staged?
Yep. So it's pretty decentralized. So which it has to be because the county's so big.
Yeah.
So we couldn't be centralized in like one location with like a couple of vehicles. It just wouldn't work. So we've got a pretty heavy amount of staffing. We probably have like 70 people assigned to the team. Probably 50 of those are like line people, like line guys.
Yeah.
And then the remainder being like chief liaisons, logistics, communications, drivers. So the equipment is, I'm looking at the map as I'm talking, right? So the equipment is kind of like strategically placed in the county. So we have assets in county-owned assets in Wareham, Kingston, Duxbury, Abington, and Whitman. So they're pretty well spread out. And then each individual department, if they want to participate, they can bring their own assets as part of it too.
Yeah.
So like in Abington, we host a technical rescue trailer in Abington that the county has, which is equipped for trench, confined space, high angle. But we also have our dive rescue trailer, which is an Abington specific asset, but that's available to the county if there was a dive activation in Plymouth.
Right.
The Abington trailer with all the Abington dive rescue equipment will go get brought down to Plymouth for the incident.
So do my previous job was part of had a district 14 tech rescue team.
Yep.
And I didn't know a lot about it at the time. Does every chief, so for a county asset, do all the fire chiefs agree to pool a certain amount of money to this program, and that program buys the asset, therefore it's owned by the county versus the town? Like who funds it?
A little bit of both. So most of the equipment is funded through grants. A lot of stuff through like SERP, like Homeland Security grants. That's kind of been like the latest thing.
Yeah.
And the Plymouth County Fire Chiefs Association also like puts up money to buy specific equipment for the team and stuff. So they've been like really supportive of the technical rescue team because it's a huge asset to them.
Yeah.
So they've put up money for us to buy specific equipment. So it's kind of a mix of donations from the County Chiefs Association and competitive grant stuff.
Okay.
We've been really successful with grants. We've got some good leadership who are really talented at writing grants.
Nice.
So a good amount of the equipment's come from grant funding.
Awesome. So is it there's like county foam trailers, right?
Yeah.
Plymouth County foam trailers. Do we have those staged? I forget where those. Is there one in East Bridgewater? Is that part of what you're doing?
No,
so it's not. That's not
foam. The foam trailers, I think those are a DFS asset.
That's a DFS.
I think. I'm definitely not a hazmat guy.
Right.
I think they're DFS assets, and those are like strategically positioned. Because when I worked in New Bedford, obviously it's a different county.
Yeah.
But they had a foam trailer assigned to New Bedford.
Right.
And it looks just like the foam trailer that's in East Bridgewater or whatever it is. So I think they're DFS assets.
I'm just my brain's like in the county, like how things are position
Yeah.
now.
There's stuff everywhere.
And I know it's not hazmat. It's I mean, that's hazmat. Obviously, it's not tech rescue, but my brain got scrambled.
Yeah. So the dudes, the people on the team, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So we've, although 70 people are spaced throughout the county. So when there's an incident in the county, the incident commander notifies Plymouth County Mutual Aid System,
Right.
which is like kind of our hub for mutual aid traffic. And that IC makes the request for the technical rescue team asset, either for tech rescue or for dive.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's good that it's so decentralized, because we'll get notification, on our cell phone or whatever, like, hey, there's an incident in, I don't know, Halifax.
Sure.
And
Seems like there's a lot of water incidents in Halifax.
there's
Right?
a lot of, there's it's a plane crash like every 6 months or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't explain it. I was
It's like the Bermuda
firefighter there for a
Triangle or
while.
something. Like,
Yeah.
what else going on?
Yeah, don't fly your plane near Halifax. I don't know.
It's the
But
Bermuda Triangle.
It's bad. Yeah. And so like, because we're so decentralized, on duty, off duty, wherever, usually when the incident commander is like, hey, we need the team.
Mm-hmm.
We need some expertise here to solve this problem for me. He'll end up with a tech rescue guy standing next to him in like 10 minutes. Which is awesome,
That is
right?
good,
Like
yeah.
the equipment's going to take a little longer, because it might be, Abington, Halifax incident. The equipment's coming from Duxbury and Abington, but he's going to get that person right next to him to be like, hey, how can I help you solve this problem, right? And that's kind of our goal. Is we want to be like a tool, like a tactical tool for that incident commander and that host community to put us in a position so we can, solve a problem for them.
Get your size up going.
Yeah,
really.
we don't ever intend to try to take over a scene or anything like that. We're straight up we are a tool, like an asset for you as the fire chief, the incident commander. Just put us into play however you see fit. We'll handle the tactical stuff.
So it's not like those TV shows or like the FBI shows up and they're like, "This is my jurisdiction now."
Right.
Yeah. We wouldn't get a lot of call outs, right?
Yeah, right.
And that's what it kind of goes in, like the people we bring on the team. We really want people that are, have a lot of humility.
Yeah.
Because you got to build those relationships really quickly, because you could be, it's not always going to be a team leadership person or a chief liaison to be the first on scene.
Right.
It could be the first year guy on the team.
Right.
And he's got to build that relationship with that fire chief and help that guy start solving problems.
Got it.
Like right away.
That just taking back again to last episode with Paul is one of the things he said. Just a similarity but different context is he was saying like day one working the rescue in the city, you could be the guy that they're coming to. So same thing, a little bit different here in the county, but same thing.
Yeah,
you could be your first day on the team and a call comes out and you're you
better step up.
You're the one that's there.
It goes into the training program too. We'll talk about that later. Like how do you prepare that new individual, that new guy? How do you prepare that person to be in that role?
Right.
Because it's probably foreign to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like everything else we've all done on this job, right? Where eventually, like, for one reason or the other, all of a sudden, all our eyes are on you, whether you're the first year guy, either, on scene for something, especially medicals, right? Because that's more of our bread and butter in a sense, where we get trained so heavily. But even on like some fire scenes, like people come up and ask me questions, and I'm like, refer to that guy, right?
see the white in this helmet.
Yeah, see the white helmet. Yeah, go ask him. I'm just going into the building and doing stuff.
I heard you mention a couple of terms. Do you have a rank structure in the county team? So is there like a breakdown of like your chain of command or whatever? So obviously whoever's same thing with any fire department, the first one that shows up takes command and then somebody comes and can take it from them. Do you have like a setup like that?
Not as structured as like a fire department would be, right? Fire department, with like our officer positions and stuff. It's not as structured as that. Like you could be a captain and you get on the county tech rescue team. You're a tech rescue guy, with us, right? Like, in that picture there, like those guys with the, our Kiwi USAR helmets, they all look the same, So the rank structure overall is kind of like flat, but we do have like a management structure within the team. So we have like a team manager, and then underneath him is the individual managers for each discipline,
right?
And then their assistants. So there's kind of like an org chart built out for the team.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering.
But so like ultimately, like the team manager or the assistant managers are going to be, probably like at least liaison level with the incident commander that they're working with. But coming down from that, like as far as like squad leaders go, like small unit stuff, if you're assigned to, do the rigging for this incident, one person's just going to take point on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that could be a senior person. More than likely, it's probably going to be a senior person who's going to kind of take point and help manage that specific role.
Right.
So it does probably lean pretty heavily on like seniority stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So we obviously have like the people who've been on the team for a long time.
So it's really more of like a more natural progression.
Yep.
Throughout your career, as
Yeah.
opposed to, you know, I mean, we know how it is with a lot of these small departments and people coming and going, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you have a captain who's, you know, 27 years old or
Right.
something, and it's kind of like,
Right.
you know, it's not,
Yeah.
they didn't get there necessarily through experience and longevity. They got there because
They can test.
they took the test, and everybody else either came and went, or they topped it or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, that
Yeah.
is like, that's like a strong chain.
It's good.
Yeah,
It's really
that's really
good because, you know, and I don't know, it just works out really well for us,
Yeah.
especially because the people on the team are just generally like really humble.
Yeah.
So, you know, even the senior guys on the team, if a junior guy's, you know, making good decisions, coming up with good ideas, and he's running with it, they're going to let him run with it because it's just going to build that guy up. It's
Yeah,
just going to
good.
give him more experience and confidence. So that's a huge part of technical rescue is just having like, just being humble. Because these things are complicated and you're going to be wrong more often than you're right.
Right.
So that's why like so many people, so many ideas have to go into solving these problems.
Right.
Like it'd be difficult for one person to come up with a plan all on their own and for
Right.
that first plan to be successful.
Right.
You know, and like that picture right there, that the cover of Firehouse magazine, that was a trench incident we did together. And, you know, that was like, to solve that, I mean, it was like 3-4 different plans deep to
So-
solve that problem.
Give us the lay of this, because we don't have any other, I mean, we can talk about any incident that you want, but where
Yeah.
we just kind of, where this is kind of here, and we
Yeah,
got
it was
the
a
picture
cool
of it,
one.
it's Firehouse magazine. So.
Yeah, it made us feel pretty cool
Yeah.
to be on the cover of Firehouse magazine. That was pretty awesome. So we got called out. That was a call out in Halifax. I think this guy was digging a Title V inspection, which is like
Okay.
a septic tank inspection. And he was down in the hole, and he had a trench wall collapse in this hole. And it's not too far from where I am. So I was the first tech rescue guy on scene to manage the incident, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so we go up to the edge of the hole, and the local fire department's there. And I like look in the hole, and like sure as heck, this dude's like buried in the hole, like up to, you know, probably like below nipple line, but he's buried under the dirt. And I was like, oh, this is
This is
it.
real.
This is real.
Yeah.
This is it. This is the one.
Yeah.
It's like I've been waiting.
This is what we play for.
yeah. Dude, I've been waiting for you my whole life, man. And so we it was an interesting incident, right? Because it's not a trench. This is where it goes into like the critical thinking aspects of tech rescue. It was a hole, right? So when we think like trench rescue, what we typically how we train for trench rescue is it's either a straight trench or, you know, a T trench or whatever. But this was more of like an oval, which kind of complicates like how you're going to manage the shoring of that.
Yeah.
You know, because the trench
Square
panels
boards
are
against round walls.
squares.
Sure.
You know, so not everything's going to fit. So it takes a lot of like, I don't know, like minutia, like, hey, we got to make this work. We got to cut this. We got to add this in here. So it's like a lot of problem solving stuff to get it all done. And so we like, you know, but that kind of goes back to what you were saying with like the initial companies arriving there that aren't tech rescue people. There's still like so much work that they can do. And I think sometimes they'll look at it and be like, this is a tech rescue incident. Like we're out. Like for an incident like this, like the local fire department did a really good job. Like they knew to establish contact with the victim. They knew to like throw a rope down to the guy to like kind of mark his location in case there was like another collapse. We could kind of know like where he is. They put a ladder in the hole. This is all like OSHA stuff, you know. They put a ladder in the hole. They put some ground pads around the hole, and they started moving the spoil pile back away from the pile because there was like obviously they're pulling the dirt out of the hole,
Yeah.
so there's this like little mountain of dirt hanging over this dude's head, ready to just like secondary collapse and just
Right.
finish this thing for the poor guy. So they were like working that thing. They secured the little excavator that was on scene. They did like all those good things that have to get done. Like that's all big safety stuff that needs to
Right.
get accomplished before we can like really start doing the tech rescue aspect. So they accomplished all those things. We, you know, dropped in panels and set our paratech shoring and got in the hole and started working to dig this guy out. And it was funny. It was me and Pat Travers from Whitman Fire. Shout out to Pat Travers. And
I know that name. I don't know
I
if
do
I
too.
know Pat
any
personally,
fire
yeah.
photo. He's a fire buff, like photographer.
Okay,
Been on the job
maybe
a long
it is.
time.
Maybe that's how. Yeah.
Great guy, great tech rescue guy. And Pat and I went in the hole first and with our little entrenching shovels and our 5-gallon buckets. And we're like, dude, we're going to make this grab. Like me and you right now, we're going to do this. I was like, we're the first ones, like
Yeah.
first in, we're going to make it.
Right.
Not even close.
Yeah,
right.
right,
Like
right.
we dug for, I don't know, 20 minutes and we got pulled out and cycled in with, more people get cycled in. But
Yeah.
I mean, it took like 3 hours maybe to get this guy out. Like,
Right.
don't quote me on that, but it was a long time. I mean,
wild.
these incidents are big. I mean, we have medical specialists on the team. So our medical specialists are, they go out to FDNY for medical specialty training in the like collapse medicine and stuff like that. So they, our medics were in the hole, treating this guy for like dehydration, hypothermia, crush syndrome. They're like doing all that stuff. And, we're doing the shoring, we're putting warm air in this for this guy so he doesn't get cold. And we ended up digging him out enough because he was kind of like in a seated position as the wall collapsed.
Right.
And it pushed him backwards. And he kind of was sitting with his legs outstretched in front of him, buried up to here.
Oh, wow.
That kind of makes it a little difficult to dig somebody out. So
Yeah, right.
we were able to dig him out and then get him in a Stokes basket. We had a simple rope system to kind of like pull the Stokes basket up onto that ladder that you can see in the hole.
Yep.
And then that ladder was kind of like pulled up with the Stokes out of the hole, and the dude was sent off for medical treatment.
Nice.
He
Is
was good to go.
that him in the red helmet?
Yeah, that's the victim in the red helmet. So, other good housekeeping stuff for tech rescue, right? Like protecting your victim. So he got helmet, eye protection. I threw him down in the beginning, I threw him down a shovel and a bottle of water. And I said, you might want to start digging. This is going to be a while.
Yeah, right.
And he started
awesome.
he started digging, like working to dig himself out.
Yep.
Because I can't start digging for him yet, but he can try to affect his own rescue too.
Right.
So, and so it worked out good for him. He did
Have
good.
you ever seen that movie, Shanghai Noon?
yeah.
Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson?
Yeah.
When he's buried up to his neck and he gives him the chopsticks and he's like, start digging.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's probably what it felt like to the guy. You know what I mean? When I throw him down like this tiny little shovel and a bottle of water.
That's what my thought process went to.
But couldn't tell how badly he was buried. The body positioning was really difficult to dig yourself out of.
Right.
But we got him out, and Firehouse put us in the magazine for like a whole article on trench rescue techniques, and we were throttled about it. There's some really great guys in this picture here. Like in the top there, that's Chris Cotty from my job. Off to the right is Captain Tom Luckman from Bridgewater Fire. We'll talk about him later. He had a lot of influence on the team. I'm not sure who the person at the bottom is. I can't remember. But
real handsome guy, we can tell from the photo.
Yep. It was awesome. So I mean, that was an incident we did that was really cool.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Good stuff.
We did with Paul. Did you see the trench rescue collapse in Pennsylvania this past week?
Yeah, I did.
So
That was a big one.
So we actually reviewed that whole thing with Paul, which would be good. But maybe we can come up with something at the end of this. And there's incidents like this all over the country all the time. Maybe go through something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
For sure.
Let's see.
So activations. Yeah.
I would say that there's at least one thing that you're very unlikely to see in the city in this group of photos.
The horse.
The horse. The horse in the field.
Yeah, Plymouth County Tech Rescue. We are like synonymous. Like large animal rescue is a thing we do.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Nobody else does it. Like
Especially
we do
over
it.
ice.
Well, we were just talking about before the show started the cranberry bogs. I imagine you get animals in around on those things.
Yeah. One of the pictures I think I sent over was a pony trapped in like a concrete drainage thing that was attached to a cranberry
Is
bog.
that photo up top right?
No, that's in Burridge Pond, like nature preserve or something in Halifax Hanson area.
Okay.
That horse like ran off the edge of embankment and got stuck off the edge of the embankment. But like nobody, there's so many horses in Plymouth County.
Right.
So it's a need that has to exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we kind of like, I mean, this predates me. I mean, the team was started in 96. So I'm just like a small fraction of the history of this team.
Right.
It goes back. We're probably one of the oldest teams in the Commonwealth.
Right.
So like animal rescue, we invented all the equipment. Like I don't say like we as in the team.
Yeah.
I was in like kindergarten.
Yeah,
when they were coming up with when the leadership then the guys who pioneered this, they were coming up with it. I mean
But that's
fabricated and machined all the stuff that we use to do this, and it's awesome.
Yeah. But it's important to and I touch on this in other subjects, but it's important to pay like homage to your lineage, right?
Yep.
So I did an episode recently with the chief from Stoughton and his dad, and we talked about our history as a fire department and line of duty deaths and the effects going forward and how they change the department for the good, worse, and better, and what have you. And but it's important of whatever organization that you belong to, that you understand how the hell you got there. You know what I mean? So it's important to pay the respects to. And when you say it's like my team, it's like, well, I say about Stoughton Fire, like, yeah, it's my department, right? So it is your team in that respect. You know,
going back to what Chief Nardelli said. Every time I've heard him talk, he says the same thing. He's like, I didn't invent this shit. I'm just passing it on. Yeah, you know. So it's to your point, important to remember like where it came from.
But they literally invented it.
This is true. I think you know, it was a couple of the Duxbury guys were like really influential in coming up with the equipment that we use to do large animal rescue, and I think that not many people have that equipment and that experience doing it.
Is there? I mean, obviously, there's confined space, trench, rope, all this stuff. Is there a large animal rescue course?
Not so. Like, I think the MSPCA runs kind of like an abridged course, but we have our own internal training program that we've come up with to kind of like specify the equipment that we use.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think the last slide had the stuff that the different types of incidents that we do, and water rescue is obviously like a big component for Plymouth County. So water rescue, both dive, surface, swift water, all that stuff is a big part of it. And then all the tech rescue disciplines, you know what I mean? So trench, confined space, high angle, tower rescue, field force extrication, like the protester stuff, like some of that. It's not really as big of a thing now as it was like a few years ago. Wide area search, structural collapse. Like we cover the whole gamut. Right. Which is challenging to run a training program for everything.
Do you tend to find that you have like guys that are jack of all trades, but then they have like one focus they're passionate about that they're excel at? So like I think you kind of had alluded to it, but say you get a call for a dive incident, is like they're a guy you're like, hey, that's my go-to for this plan. Rope incident, like this is like I might be on scene doing stuff, and this guy shows up, and I'm like, thank God, like you know your shit on this. I only like
there's some guys like even within technical rescue, they'll find like an even greater niche where they're like, you know, we've got guys who are trained and proficient in everything, but they're like really good at managing a dive incident. Right. And a lot of that falls back to like, you know, a little bit of personality, but, you know, experience too. We've got some really experienced people that have experience outside of technical rescue. Like we've got some divers who, you know, dive professionally, you know, like they dive professionally. They're diving 2-3 times a week. Right. So those are like the go-to guys where you're like looking at him, like you're running this incident, right? Like I can just dive. Like I don't have to think.
Yeah. No big deal. My first pool sessions today.
Nice. Yeah, let's go.
Basically an expert.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
Yeah. You might like this, maybe not. But yeah, I mean, it's some of these other pictures up there. I mean, they're water rescue incidents, dive incidents. The bottom one is some pictures from an ice dive we did in Wareham, looking for a victim underneath of the ice.
What are you in there?
On the right, picture on the right.
Those are dry suits, right?
Yeah, so those are dry suits. So that's in the DFS rehab trailer.
Oh,
you know, they got the rehab trucks.
You look like you're in like a hull of a ship.
Yeah, we're in the rehab trailer just trying to stay warm. The conditions that night were absolutely brutal. Diving in those conditions are difficult. Your regulators freeze. The visibility in that pond that night was, I mean, it drowns out your flashlight.
It's usually zero anyways. Yeah. Those mucky ponds. Man.
Yeah. It's totally zero. Like your light can't go through the visibility issues. And the ice is another challenge altogether. Yeah. It was pretty, that was a pretty intense dive. That was definitely at like the, like at my capability. Yeah. Right. Like at my skill set, like where I was comfortable. Mm-hmm. Like I had, for the first time in like a long time, like I had reached that level. I was like, this is it for me. Right. I was like, this is intense. This is it. Like like maxing out what I'm capable of, like maybe even a little past.
Yeah. So let me ask something about like the ice dives, because I don't want to say I've dove through like the winter. I mean, I've dove in some pretty cold months where like the air temperature was, you know, close to water temperature. Yep. And, you know, like I guess like just above freezing is like the ocean is. I don't remember the exact temps, but I know that on the surface it was 40s, and so going down we were probably approaching that. You know, I don't know what the ocean around here gets to as far as like bottoming out before, you know, but it's got to be in the 30s, right? Yeah. And so what we had done is we just brought warm water and we just put it in our wetsuits. Yeah. And I mean, as long as you stay pretty still, like if your arms are either in front of you or behind you, so your suit isn't, you know, opening and closing, expanding, contracting, and letting in other. You stay pretty warm.
Yeah. It's intense though.
But it is intense.
That's intense.
It's intense, and your feet and your hands definitely get cold, just like you do when you're outside, right? But it's like, I should say, get cold first, right? My hands and feet are always the first thing to get me inside.
Yeah.
But I've never dove in a dry suit, but I would imagine that I've talked to people and they're like, it's colder in a dry suit.
It can be. Yeah, if you don't layer right.
Yeah.
If you don't like wear the correct clothing under the dry suit, because the dry suit's thin. It's like a trash bag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really thin, so you'll get cold exposure,
right?
Like for sure. Like if you don't wear the correct layers underneath of it.
I was gonna say, I've seen the guys at work. They have like a whole fleece jumpsuit that they put on underneath their dry suit.
Yeah.
Obviously, depending on what time of year.
Even in the summer, like we're wearing like unless it's like a rapid type call out where you're like gearing up en route to the call.
Right.
You know, I'll probably just wear my station uniform under it in the warm weather.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, you really should be wearing like full length, like Under Armour type stuff, even at a minimum, right?
Like
the dry suits can leak. When a dry suit leaks, it's way worse than a wetsuit. You wish you were wearing a wetsuit when a dry suit leaks.
Right. Yeah.
You don't get any insulation at that point.
It's brutal.
Yeah. So they're really good, but at the same time they add like a whole nother layer of complexity to your equipment. But it's necessary. I mean, you can't do like these types of this type of diving safely, in my opinion, without dry suits for contamination issues and exposure and stuff.
Yeah, I gotcha.
You really need the dry suits.
It's you never see any public safety dive in anything other than dry suits, right?
Not that I'm aware of, especially in New England. Like dry suits are huge.
Is that right? Okay, yeah. I mean, when I picture it in my head, I assume just because the only diving that I've ever done is in a wetsuit around here, like
recreational,
like just recreational, and not like deep dives or anything like that. Honestly, admittedly, because I don't want to get too technical with diving, I just stay within the first atmosphere, so I don't have to worry about
it's all good.
about bottom time and decompressing and all that crap. I just go flip over rocks and look for lobsters, and that's
it.
It's nice, man.
Try to evade the great whites out there.
Yeah, right. Stay near the bottom.
Yeah,
I'm not a big shark fan. It's not my thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, buddy.
But yeah, I mean that's dive is a big aspect of what we do. We do dive training monthly.
All right, so we wanted to get into we kind of talked about that. Man, I guess we.
That's the beautiful part of this is we have this like little like thing to keep us organized in here, and then we just end up talking through a lot of it. One thing I don't know if you mentioned, how long have you been in the fire service, a firefighter, and how long have you been? I think you said 2010 was your tech rescue time started ish, but how long have you been a firefighter?
So I think I got hired as a call firefighter in Halifax in 2009.
Okay. Oh, so you got into tech really quickly from when you got hired.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
The fire chief at the time in Halifax, he was like really pro into training, and he was like, hey, go take these classes at the fire academy. I was like, what's that? And he like showed me the fire academy website. I could take these classes. I was like, I'm gonna take all of them.
Yeah, right.
So he was like really encouraging for like guys to go out and like pursue training and their passions and stuff. So I just started chasing it early. I think I got put on full time in Halifax in 2010, and I was on the tech rescue team like a couple months after that.
Right.
Put my application in.
And you said you got your 1 and 2 before you were hired. Did you then get sent back to the fire academy?
So I got my 1 and 2 before I was a call guy. I got sponsored by another town just to go through the 1 and 2 program, which was really cool. And then once I got hired by Abington, where I am now, they sent me to the full-time academy, and I went to Brockton's Academy in 2012.
Nice.
And Chief Nardelli at the time, Deputy Chief Nardelli, was the training deputy at the fire academy.
Yeah.
So that was wild.
Yeah, I had.
You could imagine like how he would run his drill school.
Yeah,
It was like the best education.
Yeah.
You could imagine. It was awesome. Yeah. It was such a cool experience being in the city, and all the instructors they're either handpicked by the deputy chief or they volunteer to come in to teach drill school.
Right.
So they're all in.
Yeah.
So like the amount of passion and experience and stuff in the fire academy there is just awesome.
He seems like he's looking for, like he's not judging people, but he's testing people too, because he talked about like knowing guys coming out of drill school that were going to come to his group, work with him, you know what I mean?
They're scouting people. Like from the day you walk in the door, you're getting scouted.
Yeah.
And like some of the kids in the class, they ended up, downtown, they got their assignments and stuff like that they wanted.
Yeah, it's like it's a draft.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody in the department's privy to, and
but you know what it does?
Because it's a city department. The guys know each other, and they're like, this guy's,
it's cool culture.
It fosters good competition and fosters people being motivated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does.
No slack.
Fun quick fact. I think I mentioned to you in the email. I went through the academy with Abington guy. We'll call him Schroll. And
he's the one who got me into this show.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's the one who introduced me to this podcast.
So he had a fire, I think, his first shift outside of the academy.
Oh, yeah.
And I think everybody was like, this mother.
You're familiar with the picture from that fire?
If I recall it in my head, it's like either 1.5 or 2 story, like
the picture of Matt.
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
That's a good picture of Matt for that fire.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. So it's out there somewhere. I don't know where this picture is, but there's a picture of Matt like standing on the tailboard of the engine, and somebody convinced him as the new guy. He wasn't thinking to like strike a little pose with the axe on the tailboard of the engine.
Oh,
dude, that thing was put on coffee mugs, posters. It was
amazing.
Everywhere.
Get that picture and send it in.
All right.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He's so good. He's so humble. He's such a good fireman, and he ate it up. He loved the attention. He ate it up. He was just so thrilled to be on the job and be part of it. He's got just so much energy for the job.
Yeah, that's
awesome to have around.
That's awesome.
So, and we've gone through this conversation, we can kind of pick up like what we really want to like get to like the seed of, so to speak, is like the getting into like the rescue mindset, right? So that's kind of like how we're putting these episodes forward, is because obviously it's just like going into any incident, right? Where you have to have like the mindset for it. And so like talk about that a little bit as far as like, gearing up and getting yourself into that mindset, and not just for the incident, but I mean, when you wake up every day, it's potentially right now you're on your way out of here and you get a call for it. So like you're ready all the time for this stuff. So talk about that mindset a little bit and how you get there. And
it attracts that good group of people that are just always switched on for the fire service. You know what I mean? So, I mean, everybody's driving around their pickup trucks with a toolbox in the bed, and it's got all their tech rescue stuff in it with them all the time. Yeah. So everybody's always like switched on, waiting for it. But like kind of what goes in, so we get really good individuals that are just super motivated to do it in the first place. Mm-hmm. So which is really huge. They're just into the job. They're into the culture. And then the training aspect of it, we can go into that. I mean, what kind of sets good tech rescue people apart from everybody else? Like what makes them a little bit different? And this took me a long time to figure out. Right. Like as a new guy on the team, I would look at the senior guys on the team and be like, we've been through the same courses, the same training. Mm-hmm. It's like, but these senior guys are so much better than me, like light years ahead of like what my capabilities were. Right. And I couldn't figure it out for like the longest time. It took years for this like to finally dawn on me. And then after I had been through like a few like good, legit, like real life incidents, and I'd spent some time training with these guys, that I realized what made them so much better than me is their critical thinking skills were just like on a whole nother level. And so that kind of, I had to reflect on that for a long time. When I took over training for, when Captain Luckman passed the training program off to me, he did such a good job with the training program too. It was an excellent training program that he had run. So I was handed the keys to this Maserati training program, and all I had to, you're going to crash. There's a good chance I'm going to crash this car. Mm-hmm. Like I almost wish I was handed something that was
too powerful.
Yeah. I almost wish I was handed something. He did an excellent job, so shout out to him. He's a great tech rescue guy, great leader. We're so fortunate to have him. And, so when he handed this program off to me, I was like, I'd almost rather be handed something that was broken.
Yeah. Hoopty. You know, a hoopty.
Yeah. I was like, cause I can fix something that's broken. You handed something that's really good, and like the pressure's on to like not screw this up.
Right.
So I had some time on the job at that point, and I kind of like reflected on my experiences on the team, particularly like my experiences being a new guy and like looking up to those senior guys who were so good at this job. And so I kind of reflected on that and was like, now that I'm doing training, how do I take the new guys that are on this team, and how do I bridge that gap to make them closer to those senior guys with that critical thinking skill set? Yeah. It's a hard thing to do. Like, how do you instruct critical thinking? Yeah. The timing for me, like in my development, was important because I just had got into like the Jocko Willink stuff with extreme ownership and the podcast and training jiu-jitsu, and I'm like doing all this stuff at the same time. Yep. So I kind of like took some lessons that I learned from that with like how Jocko ran, how he described how he ran training for the West Coast SEAL teams, right? And not that this isn't the same thing, but some of the fundamentals can be, right? Like,
well, that's what that book is. It's a book of fundamentals you can apply.
Fundamentals
to,
they translate to everything.
It was applicable, right? So like the way he kind of did things out there, he kind of would set up scenarios that were complex and kind of like not very clear. You know what I mean? You wouldn't know all the answers for the scenarios that he'd built out, and he put junior people in leadership positions, and he would let them lead and make decisions. And I was like, all right, maybe that type of mindset can work for technical rescue too. So that's kind of how I would go into setting up my drills and scenarios. Is we'd have kind of like live scenarios. You know what I mean? We work with a host department. We'd find a really cool venue, like a confined space venue, like something that we could actually be at, you know, like a water treatment plant.
Right.
We work with like the local fire department to like be involved with it. And I would tell the senior guys like, hey, don't step up. Like, let the junior guys step up. We're going to put the junior guys in positions to like handle the rigging plan, you know, handle all that stuff. I want the senior guys to like let them run with it, right? Because they're going to benefit from that so much.
Right.
You know, they're like, when you're faced with like even like small decisions, you know, and you get to make those decisions in training, and no one's going to tell you how to do it. You're like connecting those little synapses in your brain, and you're making those connections, and that's going to pay off for you later. It builds your confidence. It builds your skill set. It builds that critical thinking ability.
Right.
At least that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And it turned out, I think it was probably true, you know, and we were able to build up the newer guys by putting them in situations that required them to use critical thinking, and the senior guys would encourage them to be critical thinkers, to take risks by putting yourself, not like in the sense of like risk something that's not safe,
Calculated.
but take a risk of putting yourself out there and being like, hey, I think this is how we should do it.
Right. Okay. I
You
got
know, and the senior guys being, you know, the humble leaders that they are, like,
Sure.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Right. The plan's not like, maybe the way they do it isn't like 100%. It might not be the way that I would do it, but it's 80% good. Let them run with it. You know what I mean? Maybe like work with them a little bit to bring that up to like 90%, but like let them run with the 80%. What I hate seeing is like when like a senior guy or something like that will watch like a new guy like forcing a door, or like a senior medic watching some, you know, junior medic like do a treatment plan or something, and just see something they don't like and just shut that guy down and do it for him.
Right.
That just, to me, like we don't allow that type of mindset on the team, because it robs the junior people of that experience. It breaks down their confidence, and we can't have that, right? Because everybody on the team has to be able to step up into that number one leadership role at any time.
Right.
Because you could be the first person on scene to a legitimate trench collapse, and you got to step up and run that.
Right.
Right.
So that's kind of like the mindset I took into training, is like, how do we bring these guys up? How do we instill critical thinking skills? And I think it's been successful.
Yeah.
Overall, you know, I think it's worked out pretty good.
From here, it sounds like it would
You have
be.
a lot of photos that show that you're fairly successful.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, the guys are great. I mean, I'm so thrilled and humbled to be a part of the team. That photo in the top right is the guys either removing someone or securing a vehicle that was flooded in the Duxbury area, I think. So they're doing, you know, we were doing a standby during some pretty bad nor'easters. So we had tech rescue teams staged across kind of like the coastline with boats, with dry suits, like prepared to respond with the local jurisdiction if they ended up in like a flooding, swift water type scenario.
Sure.
They had like assets already in town. So it like cuts down that response time like in a big way. So that's a cool thing we started doing like a few years ago, like pre-staging assets for certain events. That's been successful. That bottom picture there that's actually my dad on the left side of that photo with all the gear, because he's a gear guy. So he's just covered in stuff. I don't even know what he has there. It's probably unnecessary. But that's a picture from a mobilization exercise. So that's another training aspect that all the county teams in the state get involved with. Usually it comes up every couple of years when there's like funding from Homeland Security and stuff.
Sure.
They'll put on like a big mobilization exercise where all the county teams come out, including like Metro Boston, USAR.
Yeah.
They come out, Norfolk County, you guys come out, everybody's there, and it's like usually a 1 or 2 day straight through, like all night, training evolution.
I think
It's
was the last
wild.
one just before COVID, or have they done one since then? It was right before COVID.
I don't
right?
think we've done one since COVID.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the last one. They usually get like an operation name.
It was
like,
big. I just remember the guys
like
that
Phoenix or something.
right.
or
I
Swift
remember the guys that
Response.
went. It was like miserable, like it is today, like just miserable, cold, rainy.
It's always miserable.
Yeah.
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 It's you're cold, you're exhausted, you're eating MREs, and it's
Right.
just like, and then
Collective
meanwhile,
suffering.
yeah, it's collective suffering. We love it, and then meanwhile the hazmat guys, they're eating steak
Yeah, no
indoors,
Right.
whatever. I got a hazmat guy in my job, and he likes to remind me that he's, he makes money and he's well fed. I'm like, yeah, well, you know what, bro? Like, MREs are cool, I guess. Not really.
So that's a good point to bring up then. So is this strictly volunteer position then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
you don't get assigned to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you want to be part of the team, your chief has to sponsor you essentially to apply.
Right.
And once your chief sponsors you apply, you go through our application process, interview process. If you meet our criteria, then you're and we have openings, then you're brought on.
Right.
Are you looking for people that have already gone through the training, or are you looking to get people who are fresh you can send through the training and bring up within your own program?
So we're looking for people who have base level training, because the training programs are hard to come by sometimes. It's just there's just not enough,
Yeah.
So we're really looking for people that are coming to us with training already in like rope, confined space, and trench, maybe water. You know what I mean? We'll take people that are like just going to do diving, because we need divers too. It's a huge component of the team.
Right.
But most of the time, almost all the time, we need people. The people that are applying have already been through most of the fundamental foundation type tech rescue programs. So then when they come on to us, it's more of like an introduction to maybe some of the specific equipments and like tactics and techniques that we use.
Sure.
And then after that, it's scenario based stuff.
Yeah.
Like critical thinking stuff.
So everybody that's on the team for Plymouth County is a firefighter in Plymouth County?
Yeah. Yep. Everybody on the team is a firefighter in Plymouth County. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we got representation all over the place.
And then, again, you talk about that networking. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure that you doing all the trainings everywhere, you see, all these different departments, you meet all these different people, not even for like furthering your career or whatever, but just in general, like just meeting a bunch of solid people that do the job.
So if I could like hire an entire fire department, I would just hire almost all these guys.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Because these are, I mean, the guys on the team, they're kind of like, from their own departments, they're like kind of that top tier, like really motivated, involved person. You know what I mean? Every department's got those like handful of people that are just really, really involved, really motivated,
Right.
that stand out. And a lot of them tend to come over to technical rescue.
Right.
I don't know, it just seems like a natural progression of things.
Right.
So we end up getting like just really talented people. They're talented at their own jobs.
Right.
And like some other training we've kind of been getting into over the last couple of years, we've been working on doing some like structural collapse, but with like a firefighting twist to it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like how do we, as a team, like providing a resource to an incident commander, if there was a building collapse that was involved in fire, we've got now firefighters trapped. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We've got a structural collapse involving the fellas.
Right.
Like how do we deal with that issue?
Right.
So we wanted to train our people to be able to step up and help in those scenarios if we were called upon.
It's like
Right.
next level RIT.
Yeah. So it's kind of like this. That's kind of what I've been running for the last
Yeah.
couple of years is
awesome.
this RIT thing with structural collapse component. And I found out as we were running that, I was like, not only do we have really good tech rescue people on this team, but as we started going through that RIT stuff and doing firefighting stuff, I was like, we've got some really good firemen on this team.
Just squared away guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, everyone's just so into the job
Yeah.
and just they're into it. And it's just awesome to be around people like that. And we take care of each other in the big way. You know what I mean? When somebody's got an injury or family loss or something like that, these are the guys that show up at the funeral. They're the guys who are running the GoFundMes.
Yep.
And they're doing it for each other.
Right.
It's infectious, man.
Tight knit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best, some of the best people I've ever worked with.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've talked about it from time to time too. Is at some point, and we're all doing the same thing. We're all running a lot of medicals and going to a lot of low level incidents,
Smells and
just
bells.
stuff, and stupid MVAs that you got to show up to, and things that little fender benders. And there comes a point where, like you had mentioned before, where like, how can I get to more of this like high acuity stuff?
Yeah.
Right? And you get to a point in your career where like, all right, I've kind of mastered this. I kind of have a good idea about this. And then you just start to want more out of your job. And there are people who don't want more out of their job. And that's not a knock on them. There are people very happy to just show up and do the same mundane things day in and day out. And some of those guys are the guys who are going to make it 32, 35 years because they have the mindset to just stand in there and one call at a time, go to it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And they're not in a rush to get to some of these other things, which is all good.
Yeah.
We
can learn something from those guys
You
too.
can.
When you're feeling burned out, you're feeling tired.
Yeah.
Because I mean, so I've talked about this on the show, is like the psychologist that I went to before, to get into the job, he told me that I was going to have a very difficult time with this job. He's like, you're busy. He's like, I can tell you're, like a pretty motivated person and you don't like to sit around. And with everything that you told me, he's like, and then he looked at me because I was giving this guy a lot of like shit. I was like trying to use some like reverse psychology on him, just joking around. And he was like, he looked at me and he was like, only one person has ever gone against my recommendation when I recommend people for this job. And I was like, okay. Just like staring him down.
Get home, brush up the resume, get ready to put it back out there.
So my chief actually called me though, and he was like, John, he left me a voicemail. He's like, I got a real interesting report from the psychologist. You got to give me a call back. Dude, I friggin' shit my pants. I'm like, what the? I'm like, I was just messing with this guy.
Yeah.
But then my chief, he was like, oh, he was saying that, you were joking around with him and, he's recommending you for the job. He's like, but he told me to call you and scare you. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's
It's
awesome.
funny. It's good.
But it's like, how much do you want out of the job? If you want more out of your job, you're going to go for these positions, whether it's hazmat or technical rescue or any of these.
Or just being really
right?
fucking good at getting water out of a pump.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like
there are dudes who are chasing down those classes. You know what I mean? And like that's you got to do both, and that's what like so cool about these guys. They're chasing both.
Yeah.
They're doing the tech rescue classes, and then they're going to like Bobby Eckert's classes. You know what I mean? Like they want it all.
Yeah.
They're just fully in.
Yeah.
Those are the people you want around you.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
For sure.
Because it fills your cup. It motivates you to be better.
It does.
It's like nobody wants to be in an echo chamber, right? But you want to be with like-minded people.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is like stuff like this is where you find that, because these people aren't just gonna echo all of your ideas and what you have to say and all this stuff, because they're critical thinkers and they're gonna talk to you about it. But they're going to talk to you about the shit you want to talk about too. Yeah. And they're going to be around and do the stuff you want to do and be motivated with you. You know what I mean?
They'll challenge your ideas.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I think this is how we should do this. Yeah. And, in training, they'll be like, well, maybe we should do it this way.
It's an echo chamber in that, like, if you're motivated, they're not going to be the guys that are like, whoa, slow down, young buck. You know what I mean? They're going to keep that passion going.
Yeah.
But then also challenge you. Right. You know what I mean? It's pretty awesome.
So for guys looking to get on Plymouth County Tech, give us if you have, so someone's coming to you and saying, hey, I want to get on this.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. Find a rope rescue class.
Okay.
Start there.
Okay.
All right. Rope rescue is going to lead you to confined space. It's going to lead you to trench.
Mm-hmm.
That could lead you to structural collapse classes.
Right.
Just chase the classes.
Right.
Just chase after it. Be motivated. Don't get discouraged. Sometimes the classes can be hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to travel. I see like a lot of people waiting. They'll just wait
for the MFA
for that class. Yeah, for like that MFA class, they'll wait. And MFA is doing the best they can with their resources and budget, and that class might not come for you. You might wait a long
perfect
time.
example of that.
Yeah. So I tell guys, I'm like, go to New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the New Hampshire Fire Academy.
Right.
Take a rope class up there. Those guys are really good too. Like
right.
the New Hampshire Fire Academy is awesome.
Yeah. Do you guys care about
there?
Do you guys care about like pro board certification, or do you just want to see somebody that's teaching to an NFPA standard or
Yeah, NFPA standard, that's good to go. Yeah, like if whether or not you have a pro board cert and rope is not a factor right now. It might become something in the future. I don't know. Like with I don't know what the future's going to hold for like
pro boards going, or a lot of places are going that now.
Yeah. So it could happen, in the future. That could be a thing. I mean, I wouldn't ever discard someone from, going through rope and then taking the exam. I mean, you went through it, you may as well take the exam at the end.
Right.
But it's not a requirement as of like right now. But NFPA standard programs from like legit instructors and stuff, we'll take them. New Hampshire Fire Academy, Mass Fire Academy, Spec Rescue. There's tons of companies. I only name a couple off the top of my head, but there's tons of companies out there doing awesome training with great instructors.
That's awesome.
We'll take it.
Barry went. He was training with Vector, right?
Yep. Vector's out there.
Did he do vector or did he do CMC? I think he did CMC's class.
I don't remember. I'm pretty sure.
He did vector for like a vertical mobility.
Okay.
But I think his
the actual
1, 2, and
ropes.
3 were through CMC.
Okay, see, I thought those. Okay, yeah, and he went all the way down to Miami. Was he in Miami?
Yeah, something like
He went
that.
all the way down to Miami to train.
That's a cool experience.
Yeah.
On top of it, right?
This is pre-kid.
Yeah.
I think that's something that attracts people to this too, and like in the FEMA task force.
Yep.
Because you'll get to go places to do training, which is a cool experience in itself. Because you get to go and meet people from other departments in other states, and go spend. We did like a swiftwater rescue class in New Hampshire, so it's like all of us up there in New Hampshire. 3 days doing swiftwater rescue together,
Right.
and it's it's so much fun. You know what I mean? You're hanging out with the guys all weekend and training, and just building relationships, and it's awesome.
When you doing Swiftwater up there, were you guys training on a river or what were you doing?
Yeah, we were in the Merrimack.
Okay.
I think it was the Merrimack River.
Cool. Which one is that?
That's the one that goes all the way down into like Lowell and.
Okay.
I think we were in the Bedford, New Hampshire area.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
It was pretty. It was the training was awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Like I was like initially I looked at the river from like this one angle. I was like, this is nothing.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, come on down to like we're gonna get started. I looked at it. I was like, oh, this is a problem.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the real deal. This is intense. Like you make mistakes, you're gonna get injured.
Yeah. Right.
Like you can't control the water.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
it's
can
just
control
so
so many things, but you can't control the water.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't care. It'll chew you up and it'll pull you under.
Yeah. Right.
And that's what makes swift water rescue and dive rescue like so high risk and so unique.
Right.
Is you're dealing with that like separate environmental thing that there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It's awesome. Yeah, good. FEMA puts on really good training classes.
That's awesome.
And I've always felt real comfortable in the water. I've never really put
when I was
myself in
younger. I
any-
was a lifeguard down on the beach and always enjoyed it. And then I don't know why I never got into diving until literally, recently.
It's a good time to start.
Yeah, almost 40, got a kid,
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
just get
the
into
time
it
to
now.
dedicate my life to something else,
Yeah, get into it. Yeah, great. Sounds like you have plenty of time for it. So
My buddy took me diving when we were like, I was probably 17.
Yeah.
And he was a little bit younger than me. So we, basically just got our licenses and he had his gear and he had his father's gear. And he taught me how to scuba dive in Marshfield on the break in the wall.
yep.
And then we just went out and he was like, we spent 10 minutes, just going up and down in 5-6 feet of water. And he's like, all right, let's go.
Dude, that's so sketchy.
So
I love it.
That's great.
we were 17, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
just
It was
getting
like,
after it.
but it was like, I've always wanted to breathe underwater, and then
This is amazing.
This is awesome, right? And so, we probably, I bet you we were in 20, 25 feet of water at some point. But it's so funny every time we see each other every now and again. He's like, I'll never forget first time you popped up, you ripped your mask off, snots all over your face. You're like, this is awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a good time, man. It's
cool.
awesome.
I've always loved it.
Yeah, diving's a good time. Diving up here is like not the most fun thing ever, but
No, I mean,
we're all looking forward to those trips to the Caribbean to do
Yeah.
some diving down there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. There's a lot of fun down there.
Yeah. I honestly, man, I've never done any deep dives. I've never traveled for diving. Recently, I went to Aruba and I was just doing some free diving, some snorkeling.
Yeah.
Being able to get down like 20, 25 feet and just kind of, and then when we were in shallow areas, just snorkeling around, hanging out with some fish on some like little reefs. And
Maybe if I
Love it.
maybe if I get my cert, we can go lobster dive this summer.
yeah, man, I'm telling you.
If you can dive up here,
Yeah.
you can dive anywhere.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what people say.
It's totally true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I to be honest with you, as much as I love diving, I basically stopped diving around here because of all the reports of the great whites, and I'm just like, I'm gonna say it live on on the show, man. I am scared of those.
I don't want to
Yeah.
get eaten by a
Yeah.
shark.
The guys on the team bust my chops about it all the time because I am not thrilled about the great white shark stuff. So
Yeah.
I put a tourniquet on my BC, my
Yeah.
dive BC,
Yeah.
and I got my balls busted for that for a while. I was like,
That's-
forget you guys, bro. Like, I'm carrying a tournament on this thing. I'm not getting.
It's like dudes that put them in
I
their
wanna die from
turnout
shark bite.
pockets
Yeah.
in case they get hit the saw blade or
Yeah.
something.
Oh,
Why wouldn't you have?
Yeah. They made fun of me a little bit for having the tourniquet. I was like, it's one of those things. Like, maybe it's probably one of those things. Like, you just don't want to. If you don't think about it,
Yeah.
you're probably better off.
Well, and that's
You
the thing,
know?
because once you do, if you're trying to have fun down there,
Yeah.
you're not having fun anymore.
No, it's in your head forever.
It's in your head the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I've never seen one,
Yeah.
and I hope it stays that way.
That's why you got to go with a buddy, man.
I don't even want to
Sacrifice.
see one dude, that would be wild.
We were at Browns Bank one day.
Yep, I know what that
Just
is.
beached the boat. We're hanging out. We're all swimming. My cousin looks at me. He goes, "Dude, what are the chances of there being a shark in here?" I'm like, they're around, man. I'm like, but I'm telling you right now, with all these boats, with everything going on, I'm like, they're nowhere to be found. Don't worry about it. And so, we leave, and the tide comes in. Everybody's shipping out, and within an hour and a half, 2 hours, we're back, we're docked up, and I get the alert on my phone, the shark alert, whatever, the shark app, whatever one it was. I don't even know what I had.
Shark Tracker.
I had to. I
one.
deleted it because I'm like, this is.
I don't want to know.
Hysteria, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm watching Jaws every day. So within like 2 hours, and it was like beep beep beep, Browns Bank, and I'm just like, and then I didn't say anything, and it came out on the news like the next day. This is when like it was every shark sighting was on the news. Now it's like you barely hear about it, but it was like, and then he's like, dude, there was a shark in Browns Bank. I'm like, I know. I was like, Jesus.
I didn't want to tell you.
You know what I mean?
We were doing the tech team. We were doing some training with this private company. One of their instructors was a pararescue guy, Air Force pararescue.
Yeah.
And we were talking about sharks, and he's like, we have like this water test we do in pararescue to test for sharks. And I'm like, all right, what's that? This is gonna be great. He goes, well, you take a little bit of the water and you put it in your mouth, and if it's salty, there's sharks in the water. And he goes, that's it. They're there. They're going to be there. It's just something you got to live with.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Imagine though, like you hear about like what river was it? They found like a bull shark like 1,200 miles up the river.
I think it's in Mississippi. They can live in the brack.
No, it was like it was an East Coast.
It was an East
That's
Coast?
An East
Jaws
Coast river.
Some of the influence for the movie Jaws was based off of the shark attacks in New Jersey back in like might have been like the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
They had like a bull shark get up into a riverway.
Yeah.
It's always bull sharks,
killed
too.
like it bit and killed a couple of people.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
kids that were like jumping off a bridge or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
and I'm
crazy.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just not safe anywhere.
Growing up in Florida, we had a lot of sharks, but they weren't like bull sharks and tiger. Bull sharks are aggressive sharks, but like most of like you see like little black tips and shit in the surf, like they
Yeah.
didn't bother you. But up here, you got literal man-eating
Yeah.
monsters.
These are huge animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It's
thanks.
crazy.
I'm good with that.
All right. Well, we're gonna stop talking about sharks because I eventually want to get back in the water at some point. So
I don't want to scare you out of it too much.
yeah. So where were we gonna go from there? No, I forgot.
You want to give a shout out to the guys on your team? Just
Well, thank you guys for having me on, so I can kind of share their stories and experiences and what we do. It's awesome to be part of this group with these guys. They're some of the best people in the whole county.
Yeah.
They're good friends of mine, and they've always been there for each other and stuff when everybody needs help. I mean, they're just an awesome group of people, and it's humbling to be part of it. And so it's been really cool what you guys are doing for the culture and letting me come on and share their stories. So really, on behalf of the team, just super appreciative of this opportunity to put ourselves out there.
For sure.
Thank you as well. It means a lot. We've said it from the beginning. Like the amount of support we've had from people has been great. And then when you have support from people who are really, really out there loving the job and doing it, it means a lot. So so thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
And,
so what I learned was find a tech rescue guy, grab a hold of his jacket, and go on for the ride.
Yeah. If you're looking to get in tech rescue, that sounds about the way to do it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
be ready to be cold and uncomfortable.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well,
Love it.
all right, guys. That about wraps it up for this episode. So as always, like, subscribe, follow, share, all that stuff for us, guys. Appreciate the support. And we will catch you on the next one.
Barry? Oh, shit.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
I guess Johnny.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Barry. Job Talks out.